He was born with a silver spoon, private education, royal palaces, an entire nation bowing to him. And yet, over the last few years, Prince Harry has managed to do something almost nobody thought possible. He's made people question everything about his upbringing, from hypocrisy that would make Shakespeare blush, to contradictions so obvious you can't miss them. This is the story of how a prince with every advantage in the world somehow convinced everyone he's the biggest victim in the room. Stick around as we break down 7 absolutely wild habits that have left fans scratching their heads and asking, did the royal family really fail him, or is he just making excuses? Let's go! First up, let's talk about something that's become Harry's biggest signature move, the victim mentality. And honestly, it's exhausting. Since stepping away from royal duties in 2020, Harry has made a career out of telling everyone how hard done by he was. In interviews with the BBC, in his Netflix series, in his memoir, Spare, it's constant. But here's where it gets weird. Every single time something goes wrong, it becomes about him being wronged. Lost a legal case for security? Not his fault, the family set him up. Doesn't get police protection anymore? Conspiracy against him, criticized by the public. They don't understand his trauma. Mental health professionals have actually called him out on this. One childhood trauma specialist pointed out that Harry has what's called a persecution complex. He genuinely believes his family is deliberately attacking him personally. But think about it, the man's worth over $60 million. He's got a mansion in California. He's married. He has beautiful kids. And yet the constant messaging is, I'm the victim here. What's wild is that he does this thing where he times his interviews and revelations perfectly to overshadow his family's events. It happened during the Queen's funeral, his dad's coronation, Remembrance Day, you name it. It's like clockwork. Experts have pointed out that this pattern shows he's not actually trying to resolve issues with his family. He's trying to get sympathy, and that's a habit that's really hard to break when you're used to getting attention this way. Okay, so habit number 2 is something that genuinely baffles people, the hypocrisy. Harry spent years criticizing the royal household. He hated the structure. He hated the courtiers. He called them enemies. In his memoir, he absolutely went to war with the institution he grew up in. He said the palace was toxic, controlling, and basically designed to destroy people like him and Meghan. So what did he do? He created the exact same structure in his new home in Montecito. Seriously, Harry and Meghan hired 11 senior staff members with high salaries to run their operation. They created layers of hierarchy, communication chains, the whole thing. It's basically the palace model but smaller. Royal experts actually pointed this out and called him a hypocrite. One expert said, the hypocrisy lies in the fact that Harry has attacked courtiers and the royal household, considering them enemies. So it's extremely surprising that he should want a similar structure in Montecito. But wait, it gets worse. Harry lost a court case for UK police protection. He argued that private security couldn't access government intelligence. Fair enough, right? But then, and this is real, he flew down to Colombia for a tour with Meghan while claiming the UK wasn't safe enough for his family to visit. Meanwhile, the UK Foreign Office was literally warning about violence and threats in parts of Colombia. So the place he's said repeatedly is super dangerous. He went there for a photo op, but his childhood home? Too risky. The logic just doesn't add up. Here's where things get dark. Harry has a serious problem with keeping staff around, and the stories coming out are not great. There's this thing going around called the Sussex Survivors Club. Why? Because people keep quitting. Around 18 staff members since Harry and Meghan got married. Some quit after just 3 months. One chief of staff left and said he wasn't comfortable with aspects of the job. But the real tea came from a massive Vanity Fair article titled American Hustle in early 2025. The article included allegations that staff were treated poorly, with sources describing the environment as toxic. Insiders said Meghan would go from being warm and effusive to cold and withholding, depending on how she felt about their performance. Here's the kicker though, Harry talks constantly about how he was mistreated by the royal household, how unfair the system was, how harmful the institution was. But he's recreating that same environment. Former butler Paul Burrell, who knew Harry growing up, actually said Harry can be difficult and petulant. He's always lived in a bubble. Yeah. So you've got this situation where Harry experienced what he describes as a toxic work environment in the palace. It traumatized him enough to leave the country, and then he created one of his own. That's not growth, that's a pattern. And patterns like this don't happen by accident. Habit number 4 is the security argument, and it's become almost laughable at this point. Harry lost a legal case against the Home Office for UK police protection. The decision was final, but instead of accepting it, he's been on this crusade to make everyone believe there's a massive conspiracy against him. In a BBC interview, he literally said his father, King Charles, could solve everything by stepping aside and letting experts handle it. Except, the king can't just override court decisions. That's not how constitutional monarchy works. But here's where the hypocrisy gets thick. Harry complained about Prince Andrew. He said it was unfair that Andrew kept royal protections and funding despite facing allegations, while Harry lost his protection after stepping down. Fair point maybe, but then Harry wrote a whole book and did Netflix deals making money off discussing the royal family. Things Andrew never did, but sure, he's the victim. The real issue is that Harry seems to believe he deserves special treatment. He wants the benefits of being a royal without any of the responsibilities. He wants UK police protection, but also wants to publicly criticize the UK government and the royal family. He wants security funded by taxpayers for a family that's making millions in private deals. And when he doesn't get it, he acts shocked and betrayed. A journalist pointed out that Harry seems to not understand his own father's limitations. The king literally cannot intervene in court cases to favor his son. That's the whole point of an independent judiciary. But instead of accepting this, Harry keeps pushing the narrative that his father is somehow abandoning him. It's become an excuse that's worn pretty thin. Okay, so habit number 5 might seem like it's from the past, but Harry keeps bringing it up like it happened yesterday. I'm talking about the Nazi costume. Back in 2005, when Harry was 20 years old, he wore a Nazi outfit to a costume party. It was stupid, it was offensive, and he's acknowledged it was wrong. In his memoir and in interviews, he said it was one of the biggest mistakes of my life. But here's the thing, that was 20 years ago. He was a kid making a really dumb decision. Most people grow up, apologize, and move on. Harry apologized. The world moved on, but he keeps bringing it up. He talks about it in interviews. He mentions it in his book. He's essentially keeping this embarrassing moment alive. What's interesting is that Harry uses this incident to paint himself as a victim too. He talks about it like he was just a foolish young man led astray, but everyone else around him shares that blame too. The thing is, real growth isn't about constantly relitigating your past mistakes and asking for sympathy about them. It's about doing better and showing that change through your actions. Instead, it feels like Harry uses this story to establish himself as someone who's made mistakes but has learned. Except his current behavior suggests maybe he hasn't learned as much as he claims. He's still making questionable decisions. He's still caught up in controversies. The only difference is he's older now, so it's harder to blame it on being a kid. Habit number 6 is absolutely wild. Harry revealed intimate family details to the entire world, and then he claims he didn't do anything wrong. In the Guardian interview in 2025, Harry straight up said, "I don't believe that I aired my dirty laundry in public." He said his conscience was clear, but mate, you wrote a 400+ page memoir called Spare, where you detailed everything. Private conversations, family conflicts, health struggles, relationship problems. You did Netflix deals. You did Oprah interviews. You put your business on blast internationally. Critics pointed out that this is gaslighting 101. You can't publicly dump on your family and then claim you didn't. One commentator said Harry was being completely dishonest, and that shame on the media outlets for not pushing back on this claim. What's happened is Harry has created a narrative where sharing family secrets is somehow speaking truth to power and holding people accountable. But that's just a fancy way of saying he's airing dirty laundry for money and attention. There's accountability, and then there's taking private family conflicts and monetizing them globally. The even crazier part? Harry got defensive about this. In interviews, he acts like he's the victim because people are criticizing him for doing exactly what he said he did. The lack of self-awareness is actually stunning. The final habit, and this one really upset people, is Harry's disrespect for serious occasions. In November 2025, Harry and Meghan showed up at Kris Jenner's lavish birthday party at Jeff Bezos' mansion in Beverly Hills. Photos were taken, they were posted, and then suddenly the photos disappeared. Why? Well, it turns out Harry and Meghan had the photos removed because it was Remembrance Day. Remembrance Day is sacred in the UK and the Commonwealth. It honors fallen soldiers. It's solemn. It's serious. And Harry, a military veteran who's talked extensively about honoring service members, was out partying with celebrities in Los Angeles while the photos were taken down because of the optics. What people found disrespectful wasn't just the party, it was the lack of consistency. Harry talks about being a veteran. He talks about honoring fallen soldiers. But on Remembrance Day, he's at a celebrity party in LA, and when photos go public, he's managing the narrative about it. According to reports, Harry and Meghan had ticked no on consent forms about sharing photos, so the photos were deleted. That's technically fine, but the real issue is the message. It says, "I care about remembrance, but only when it's convenient for my image." That's not genuine respect for fallen soldiers. That's performative activism. So there you have it, 7 habits that have left millions of people wondering, is Prince Harry actually a victim of circumstance? Or is he just a guy with an excuse for everything? The thing is, nobody's perfect. Harry's not the villain, but he's also not the victim. He's a guy who had every advantage, made some questionable choices, and now spends a lot of time explaining why those choices weren't his fault. Real growth comes from owning your mistakes, not monetizing them. It comes from making different choices, not repeating the same patterns, and it comes from being consistent, not saying one thing and doing another. What do you think? Does Harry get a fair shake, or is he his own worst enemy? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you want more deep dives into the lives of famous people and the habits that define them, hit that subscribe button.